Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Can I get a welcome back? That's why I'm here. Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for attending this next session. This is kind of the basics and beyond. I have found that doing training for the past 28 years that I get complacent. I get comfortable. I forget to do some of the little things. So this is really going to address some of those little things. But I've got some new tricks up my sleeve that you guys have not seen before because I've only presented them once. And that was Saturday. They were pretty well. So I think you guys will like them. Again, I found in training, it's time to beg, borrow, cheat, steal everything that you can. You feel free to use whatever I have. All right, just give me credit where credit is due. Say, hey, I learned this at a conference from this weird guy, Rich. And that's perfectly fine. Again, credit where credit's due. If I learn something from any of my instructors, I always give the credit back because I can't come up with all this stuff by myself. So let's get this show on the road. I would ask that for my mystery grab bag or my bag of tricks, can you all hear me in the back like this? All right. I got a big mouth, so. If you weren't in my last session, for this session, if you have a notepad, I'd like you, when there's something you like, or hey, that's pretty cool, I'll use that. Write it down. That's your next bag of tricks. The next time you go and do a presentation for your students, pull from one thing from that bag of tricks. You don't have to pull them all. You might want to, you might not. But try and pull one and try it. Especially with something you've never used, it's always a little, is this really going to work with my students? I think it will with what I have to show you. So keep that in mind as we go through the presentation. Write down those little things because we'll be revisiting this information a little bit later in the show. So we're going to start with a quick video. disconnected. So my take on this is our students are learning at a rate with technology and things beyond anything that I ever thought was possible. If you had told me 29 years ago I would have been teaching virtual classes, I would say, what? You told me 3 years ago I'd be teaching virtual classes, I would say, what? But we all know the pandemic forced that on us, so like it or not. How our students learn in terms of the mental side of it, they take information, they process it, they store it, that hasn't changed. But how they receive that information, that has changed. And that's what we as educators need to stay on top of. But we also can't forget some of the basics. So that's really what this is all about. For those of you who haven't been in any of my sessions, my name is Richard Chidester. I'm the lead instructor for AAA's driver training. In a nutshell, they sent me all over the country training people how to be driving instructors. I managed several AAA's program training sessions throughout the world, actually. One of our programs is with the U.S. military. So just a month ago, I was doing training with folks in Japan virtually. Now, I wouldn't mind going out to Japan. I just don't want that flight bad enough that I have to go to Hawaii because someone has to go. So I take one for the team, and I do it every once in a while. Well, yeah. So then we're going to talk about our student-centered learning or participant-centered learning. We know this is the way to go. The days of that monotone instructor that stand behind the podium, read word for word, have students write everything on the screen down. That's not how they're learning. They want to be involved and engaged. It's our job to involve them and engage them. We want to put in the core teaching tips. So the core teaching tips are going to be closers, so ways to close out sessions. Openers, ways to open with energy and get your students pumped for the next hour, 2 hours, whatever they happen to be, whatever you happen to have them for. Ways to review and revisit information without ever saying, okay, class, let's review. Because what happens when we do that? Anyone? If I said, all right, yeah, there you go. There's no sense, we're going to bed. I heard it the first time, I don't need to hear it again, so I'm going to take a nap, I'm going to turn it off. We don't want to do that with our students. I'll introduce you a way that's very simple, inexpensive way to do that, and never once will you tell your class, all right, let's review and revisit. So they never have that opportunity to unplug or shut down. But they will be involved and they will be engaged. This I guarantee. And I like to foster healthy competition through gaming, through gamification within my program. I have on here, if we have time, and we should, we won't get through it all, but I'll be able to show it to you, a Jeopardy game. Right? All of us have probably played Jeopardy, and I know it's been around for a long time. PowerPoint has a version of, you can just bring PowerPoint Jeopardy game, and you build it yourself. I have one on here, it's got a little bit better graphics. I'll be more than happy to share it with anybody who wants it. I can arrange that through Audra, she can get it out to anyone who needs it or wants it. It's pretty cool. We should have an opportunity to be able to go there. So learning is directly proportionate to how much fun you have. I'm watching the sessions, I'm talking with several of you. I heard you mention, hey, I saw you online, it was a lot of fun, and I like to bring that into the classroom too. I like to have fun with my students. All right, here, and I'll give you just one way. I should have time to do this. I need 2 volunteers. Who wants to volunteer? Reward for volunteering. Nobody wants to volunteer for me. 2 people. There's one. Come on up. Lucico, come on up. How you volunteer? No, you right here. Yeah, sir. Come on. Yeah, you right there. Yeah, right there. Come on up. So when's the last time you guys were talking? It's a loaded question. You have to be careful doing this in the classroom. It is something you can do. We all know that communicating is very important, right? On the roadway, and how you communicate, what you say, how you say it is very important to get your message across. So this is an exercise in communication. We're going to tie these 2 fine gentlemen together, and they're going to have to communicate with one another to get themselves untied. Now, they will not be able to take the rope off their wrist. They will not be able to untie the rope or cut the rope, but they must get themselves untangled. Oh, good. Yeah. He looks really smart. All right, so again, communicating is very important. So you guys talk to one another to try and figure out how to get untangled without taking the ropes off your hand, untying them, cutting them, burning already. So really quick, we'll give you just a second to try and figure it out. Talk to one another. Now, as they're doing this, you guys can do this in your class. I recommend the rope length to be just a little bit longer. It adds a whole new element of fun to the game. If you happen to host a party, this is a great party game too. Be careful, make sure your audience actually likes each other. That didn't work, did it? Oh, you guys really got it knocked down. I'm going to give them, just for time, I'm going to give them just another minute or so. Actually, less than that. You were, well, almost close. So again, just a simple thing you can do with your students in the class. If you have females, I recommend they're not in skirts, just in case they start climbing in and around things. Put a couple females together, maybe that's a better way to do it. Just so there's no issues in the classroom. Okay, I'm going to reset you. I'm just going to take this one off. All right, now I'm going to have you guys come over here. Now, usually after about 4 or 5 minutes of them trying to twist and turn around, and someone's looking for it online how to do it, I think. It's actually very simple. I'm going to block everyone, and then I'll show you. It's that simple. I'm going to take this one off. It's easier if I demonstrate it this way. Just stay right here. So this is what I did. I've got my rope, right? I take my rope, I pass it behind his and over his hand. This is why the longer ropes are better. And then it just comes right off. All right, and again, you can entertain your students, you've involved them, you've engaged them, you now have their attention. And they will be looking for the next best thing. So let's give them a hand. We're better than the celebration from the right, so understand what it's for in a minute. All right, have a seat. Again, that's just one thing you can do. So retention increases up to 800%
if humor is used when presenting good, clean humor. Students using lots of visuals did 12% better on long-term and on short-term, and 26% better on long-term retention. Simply by using humor. This is one I'll use, being a biker, you know. So we don't need an eye chart, we just know if you can see one of these, you're good. Again, being a motorcyclist. When I was young, it was always punch buggy, so you know, punch your brother when you saw a Volkswagen. Teach your kids to look for motorcycles instead of Volkswagens. Makes a huge difference in that recognition of motorcycles on the roadway. Now, let's see, I'm looking at the average age in here. Some of you might get this, some of you might not. But that awkward moment when you drive, you shove it to the levee, but the levee isn't dry. See, some of you get it. It's a song for those of you that don't get it. Again, simple humor. You can have some fun. I have your attention now. That's all it's for. So, who can tell me what an opener is? Can anyone tell me what an opener is? What's it designed to do? What's that? Nobody? Really? So an opener has two parts. What's that?
Get your attention.
Get your attention, yes. Designed to break preoccupation. What are your students doing when they come into the class? Clicking on their phone. You want to break that preoccupation. That's what the opener is for. And it's relevant to the content. Right? So opener breaks preoccupation and it is relevant to content. An icebreaker is, you heard me play music before? All right, that's an icebreaker. That's just to get people talking with one another. It really has no tie to the content. You want to use effective openers. I have a few that I'll show you here. So again, breaks preoccupation, tied to the content. Open with energy. If I came in and said, we've got 2 hours, guys. If you can get through it, so can I. That's no way to open. That's not energy. That's why I stood up here and said, hey, give me some energy. All right, because I feed off of that, and your students will as well. Again, make sure it's relevant to the topic. You want to give an overview of what we're going to cover? That was my previous slide. Be aware of your voice. I've got a big mouth. I know it. But you don't want to talk really, really low. You want your students to be able to hear you. It's really ironic that I have a microphone in front of me. I usually don't. But I do know that I have 3 more sessions today, and I know by the end of the 3rd one, my voice will be tired. So, you know, have that awareness of your voice and establish and maintain that audience contact. Be involved with your students. Be engaged with them. So here's an opener I use, this next thing coming up. And this is an opener I will use when talking about communication. We tried one over here with the rope exercise. This is one that doesn't involve quite so many people, but you can get everyone involved. We all know that communicating is extremely important on the roadway. So I'd like you to listen very carefully to the instructions. Again, I would use this when talking about communication. We all know that it's important. So listen very carefully. In the following line of letters, cross out 6 letters so that the remaining letters, without altering their sequence, spell a familiar English word. And folks, you can answer this in the chat as well. When you know the answer, just go ahead and stand up. You're going to cross out 6 letters so that the remaining letters, without altering the sequence, form a familiar English word. Just think about what I said. Communication. We got one. Okay. Don't stay up. Got it quick. That was good. Anyone else? What were the directions? Crossed out 6 letters. And what word did you come up with?
6 letters.
Sure. Is that the word you came up with?
Yeah.
If you crossed out 6 letters, what was the new word you came up with?
I just crossed 6 letters.
Okay, so he's close. I'll give it to him because the participation is good. But if I cross out 6 letters, the new word I formed is banana. Now, the directions were cross out 6 letters. It's all about communication. If I had said cross out the letters or the phrase 6 letters, would that have been a little more comprehensive? Okay, so to cross out the word 6 letters, that would have been a little bit more comprehensive. Again, communication is extremely important on the roadway. Here's what I built for the show on Saturday. I didn't have time last night to change out the license plate, so this will work. We talk about read the road in our curriculum, taking in the entire traffic scene. Okay, right speed for right now. Really just looking at the whole big picture. So I decided to come up with some license plates, because we can learn a lot about a person by maybe what their license plate says. So what might this one say? Sure, salesman, pretty simple, right? How about this one? Harness gear, very good. That's not the one I got from a couple people. I won't go there. How about this one? Sure, stop testing. This is just something you can just add to your class to involve and engage them away from the regular curriculum, the rigors of the regular stuff. Here's one I would use when talking about adverse weather. When you know the answer to this one, I'd like you to stand up, please. Common phrase. We got one. Very good. Anyone else? We got 2. 3, 4. Okay, we're getting more and more. You think you're gonna have to work this hard after lunch, huh? All right, down here in front.
3 degrees above 0.
Sure, 3 degrees above 0. It's relevant to content. It breaks preoccupation. See you later. I ran out of stuff. I think I gotta send my guy up. We'll get it under the car. So it's just simple things you can do like this to open a session, break that preoccupation. It's relevant to the content. It's just something fun to do with your students. Now, when you're doing this, when you build any program, you want to chunk your information out. I'm going to go back to that in just a moment. You want to break it into need to know versus nice to know information. This was a conversation we had on how to drive. It's like, what do I need to do? What do I need to teach of a 45-hour curriculum? Okay, what do I have to cut? So we give you a Slim Jim document that'll take the curriculum from 45 to 30 hours, and then you guys just need to figure out the rest of what you can use, what you can't use. But when I talk about need to know versus nice to know info, there's one extra piece that's not up here, and that's where to go. So you may not have all the answers, but you may have a resource for a student to go look for it. Maybe it's something they do on their cell phone. You say, hey, go look this up for me and see what it is. And then they can use their cell phone in class, and they're actually doing work. I like to use the one I use for Florida, so need to know versus nice to know. The maximum speed limit in the state of Florida is 70 miles an hour. Would that be need to know information or nice to know information? To me, that's neat. I want my students to know that's maximum speed under the best of conditions. In the state of Florida, the police officers cannot write you a ticket for 1 to 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. It's actually written in the Florida statutes that they cannot do that. Now, to me, that's more on the nice to know side. I don't want to tell my students, oh yeah, you can go 5 over. I'm not going to tell my students that. They can go look it up and they'll find it. And the only reason I know this is because I was confronted, probably isn't the best word. I was doing a training like this with SRO, school resource officers. And I was like, yeah, police officer can write you a ticket for 1 mile an hour over. And this guy I swear, he just jumped out of his seat. He's like, well, wait a minute now. Like, in the state of Florida statute, whatever it was, says blah, blah. I'm like, cool. I said, I'm going to use that over and over and over. And it worked out well, but that is a Florida statute. Nice to know information. When you're using visuals, anyone still use a flip chart? Really? I guess I'm really old. I do occasionally use a flip chart. I use a lot of images. We want to start slides. You're using our curriculum. There's not a lot of words, but boy, do we use a lot of images. Because a picture says 1,000 words. And we give you all the information to talk about. It's just an image is much better. We feel. Whiteboards. You guys use whiteboards? Yes? Okay, is that a hands up? Yes? Yeah, all right. Just making sure y'all are awake in the back. How many of you use Microsoft Whiteboard? Nice tool. Go look at it. It's in the Microsoft Office suite. And you can do everything on the whiteboard. You can do it all virtually, project it on the screen, the whole 9 yards. And it works just like a whiteboard. You've got markers you can use. I have a touch screen on my screen, so I can use that. But nice little tool. And then your videos. Make sure your videos are short and sweet. You'll notice the videos in the How to Drive 15 curriculum, for the most part, are all under 3 minutes long. There's only 2 of them that go a little bit longer because we just had to. There's no other way to get it done. So make sure they're short and sweet, relevant to the content. I told you I was going to go back to chunking out information. So I asked that you put CPR into your training. And this is not cardiopulmonary resuscitation, which some people need after lunch just to get going again. The C stands for content. So in this triangle, you got your content. The P is participation. You got to get your students involved and engaged, get them talking with you and with one another. And then the R is review or revisit. But again, you can't ever say, all right, class, let's review. Told you I had a way to do this. I gave 2 people die. Where are you? Stand up. One over here versus where was the other one? There we go. Okay. You can sit down again just to make sure where you were. What I do with the die, and you guys get to keep those die, by the way. All right, what I do in the classroom is I'll give my student a die. And I'll have them roll it. If they roll a 1, 2, or 3, they have to give me 1 piece of information that they've picked up in class. If they roll a 4, 5, or 6, they give me 2 pieces of information that they've picked up in class. You do this with enough students, you can go through everything you just taught in the past couple hours of the class without ever once saying, okay, class, let's review. They don't know any better what you do. You've done the whole review and you can fill in the holes that you need. And never once have you said, okay, class, let's review. Simple little die. Those, the bigger ones that you guys have, those are Dollar General, 6-pack for $1. I've got a big one at home, like this big, that I don't like to travel with it because it's this big. So I even have a smaller one that I travel with. But I thought my wife had actually picked those up at Christmas time for some crazy reason. She figured I could use them for something, and this is what I'm using them for. They're nice giveaways, something to use in the classroom. Now, the trick to it all this takes place in a 20-minute time frame. So for every 20 minutes, you've got some content, some participation, some way to review or revisit. Now the die is one way, the Q&A is another way. You'll notice our curriculum is built this way. Now, well, you will now. Now that you'll start going through the wow, he's right. We've got all this information, and look, here's the content, here's the participation, here's the review. And it's all there. That's how our programs are designed. I told you I like images. Please understand, I can't make this up. A friend of mine sent me this at a recent bike festival, motorcycle festival. And yeah, that is a smart car literally towing a dually trailer. And the trailer had 2 motorcycles in it. Somebody needs to alert the smart car driver of weight limits. I'm not quite sure how far he towed it, but to me, it's just a little ridiculous. But I guess if you're a biker, you gotta get there, right? There's another one I would use when talking about slow down, move over with my students. Because everybody loves a police officer pulling over a donut truck. Who doesn't? I mean, come on. Your students are going to get a kick out of it. Okay. To me, it's funny. I've always loved cops pulling over donut trucks. But it's relevant to the slow down, move over content. We all know our signs, right? We all know what a red 8-sided sign is, and that's what? Stop. The stop is classified as a complete definite momentum cease movement. Stop before the little white line. What's a silver 8-sided sign? It's the back of the stop sign. Could be on a one-way street. You know, the guy across the way has a stop sign, doesn't mean they're going to stop, it just means they have a stop sign. We know that 90% of people do not stop at stop signs in residential areas. How about this sign? Anybody know what this sign is? Who said that? Thumbs up. I had to look this one. I had no clue what it was. Someone sent it to me, and I was checking. I thought it was maybe a sidewalk that didn't have a nice slope to it, and the bike goes in and get over the hills. I actually went to the Universal Code book on traffic signals, and yeah, it's this one happened to be for light rail or railroad tracks. It was one I had never ever seen in my life before. Someone actually took this photo and sent it to me and said, "Rich, can you tell me what this is?" I wrote it back and said, "No, but I'll find out," and I did. I also like to use quick videos. I do not own the rights to this video, but it is kind of fun.
Toyota just announced that they're adding Alexa to their cars so you can control things with your voice. It's supposed to be convenient and helpful. Here's how it works.
Starting this year, Toyota and Lexus luxury models will come with Amazon Alexa.
Alexa, turn on the AC.
Turning on AC.
Finally, a virtual assistant to help you navigate.
Alexa, where's the nearest gas station?
Nearest gas station in 1.5 miles.
And to help maintain your vehicle.
Alexa, order more brake pads.
Ordering new brake pads. Although maybe if you didn't stop so close to the car in front of
I left plenty of room.
you, you drive too aggressively.
If you were just quiet for 2 seconds, 2 seconds.
She'll talk to you literally the entire time you're driving.
I think you should have turned back there.
I know where I'm going.
You know why I pulled you over?
No, officer, I have.
Because we were driving 72 miles per hour in a 45-mile-per-hour zone.
Anything else I should know?
2 miles back, we rolled through a stop sign without coming to a complete stop. Also, there are illegal fireworks in the trunk.
Sir, you just step out of the car, please.
Amazon Alexa. You'll never forget.
Really just because it's fun. Someone said, technology can save us, and they'll either save us or just put in jail. It depends on how you want to look at it. When you're building your training, when you're speaking with your students, again, basic stuff. Proper use of language is very important.
Robin Williams put it best in Mrs. Doubtfire. How many of you have seen Mrs. Doubtfire, the movie? Right, Robin Williams is in the studio playing with the dinosaurs, and the owner of the studio comes in. He's like, "What are you doing?" Goes into this big thing. But the ending phrase was probably the most important to me. And it was, don't talk down to your students or the kids. Just talk to them or just play to them. Like it or not, we are entertainers. When we're up here for 2 hours, our students need to be entertained, to be involved and engaged. We may not like it, but we are entertainers, and we got to put on the show. So have that in mind. Use proper use of language, and talk on their level. I was in a panel discussion with a bunch of PhDs. Nothing against PhDs. But they were using words that I had to go look up to understand. And they weren't relevant to the audience that they were speaking to. That's why our How to Drive, we went through a lot of rigorous review with, where the average student is learning at what grade level. Do we know what grade level that is? Yeah, 7th, 8th grade level. So that's where the curriculum had to be written on, to be viable for the student. Lead by example and behavior are lumped together. You leave the school and don't put your seatbelt on, your students are going to see you. You're out in public and your seatbelt's not on, your students are going to see you. They're going to find you. Everything you just said about wearing your seatbelt is null and void to that student now. They see you speed. They see you roll through a stop sign, right? And they are watching. You're going to come across them. I've been caught. My biggest thing is speed, and I know it. So I was very, very cautious. I had to really, really work through some of this stuff. So this is the Jeopardy game. I'm only going to do a couple of these for time because I've got 2 other short videos I want to show you for training. So we're going to start with this head table right here. Can you guys please pick a category and a dollar figure? Laws for 100. What is a primary law? You know the answer. You don't have to worry about being wrong either. That's okay. Huh? It is a rule. But if I go here and click answer, primary law allows the police to stop you without having another violation. So for years, seatbelt was a secondary law. Right, which meant you had to been speeding or driving without headlights on or something to be pulled over, and then they can bag you for the seatbelt. Most states now have a primary seatbelt law where if you're not wearing your seatbelt, you're going to get a ticket. And you should. We just lost two kids. I know you guys did too, or Idaho did as well recently. We just lost 2 young children last week not being belted into a car seat. A head-on crash. 2 young children dead for no reason. If they were belted in, they would have survived. I have to go by that spot every day on my way to work where that crash. So then you just hit return, and it goes back to the main screen. Okay, so I'm going to go. I'll just pick data for 200. So yes or no, there's a significant difference in crash risk if you use hands-free or a handheld cell phone when driving. Some say no, everyone says no, and the answer is no. So that is how this game is set up. I'm just going to break out of presentation mode to show you guys something. This here are all the slides. So here's the head one. All these slides make up that one Jeopardy game. They're all modifiable. You can go in, you can change the answers, do what you need to do. You put in your own questions, your own numbers, your own categories.
It's just built in PowerPoint. It's not that big a deal. And then there's video tips by Rich. I hate being on camera, but unfortunately, it's one of those things that my job requires it. And again, I mentioned I'm a big side-by-side fan. That's my buddy's Polaris 500 that we like to bury about this deep in the water and mud when we go out riding, because. So here's a couple of tricks I want to show you. Because I don't carry them with me anymore, so here they are on video.
The teaching tips, hosted by lead instructor Rich Chidester.
In this segment, we're going to be talking about risk, specifically how perceived risk differs from actual risk. For this, I will need a volunteer from the audience. Zach, would you come on down? Thank you for volunteering. Poor Zach has no idea what he's getting himself into, but we're going to have a good time.
Poor Zach, just work for us.
When we talk about risk, and these two cups were empty cups were to represent risk, and I would hold them over Zach's head. They would represent very little risk to Zach, I would think, right? There's no water in them, so there's no really big problem. But if I were to come over here and pour some water in it, put a good amount in there for Zach. And now we take the two cups, hold them over his head. This cup represents significantly more risk to Zach than does the empty cup. So if we take some of that water and we mix it in this cup here, they now represent about the same amount of risk. The problem with risk is you never really know how much risk is in any situation, so you need to be prepared for anything that comes along. To do this, you'll need two non-see-through cups, some water, some slush powder that can be found in any magic shop or online, and an unsuspecting volunteer. Take the cup, add about a teaspoon of powder, and be sure to use enough powder. If you don't, somebody's going to get wet.
Thank you for watching AAA's video teaching tips with Rich Chidester. Stay tuned for the next episode.
So you can buy slush powder at any magic shop. You want to get a reaction out of your students when you tip over that cup that's supposed to be wet. Your students are like, oh my gosh, what just happened? So the slush powder just gels up the water, much like the contents of a baby diaper. You know, you're going to pour water and it just kind of holds it all together. That's all the slush powder is. All right, it's a fun little trick to get to involve and engage your students. And I have one more. I know we're up against the clock, but I do want to show this to you guys.
Welcome to AAA's video teaching tips, hosted by lead instructor Rich Chidester.
In this segment, we're going to talk about adjusting speed, specifically the importance of adjusting speed through an intersection. So this 18-inch stainless steel needle were to represent a car, and this balloon were to represent an intersection. If the car were to go through the intersection too fast, what would happen? It would crash. Correct. So if this car goes through this intersection too fast, correct, there would be a crash. Now, if we take that same intersection and that same car and we pass through the intersection slowly, you can actually go from one end of the intersection to the other, and there will never, ever be a crash.
So I'll just explain that one real quick. It's called the needle through the balloon trick. You can go to a magic shop, any magic shop, and buy it. When you buy it, you get balloons that are dipped, double dipped on both ends, so it's really, really thick on each end, and the needle passes through nice and easy. I'm cheap. I go buy latex balloons, some Scotch tape, put a little piece of Scotch tape on one end, a little piece of Scotch tape on the bottom. Students never see it. When I grab the balloon, I take my index finger and I put it right on the top of the balloon where the tape is. I grab the balloon. When I push the needle through the bottom through the tape, I can feel it when I hit the top of my finger. And then it's just a quick twist and a push, and it'll go through and not pop the balloon. I recommend you try this before you do it live in front of your students. Because when you mess it up, expletives come out. At least they do out of my mouth. I have a lot of practice with this trick. I just can't travel with it because they don't let me carry an 18-inch stainless steel needle in my carry-on luggage. That's all there is.
All right. I know we're up against time, so really quick, here's some additional resources for you. So we got drivertraining.aa.biz, AAA.com, the foundation, the SAA, these are the same ones that I put up before for any of my other sessions. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your 54 minutes of time.